The hat is on, which means that I'm gonna get raw, I'm gonna get real. It also just means that I'm having a bad hair day. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. My name is Beth, if you are new here, and I like to talk about music. Today, I'm gonna be ranking every single album that I listened to in 2023. So this will be any album that was new to me in the year 2023. New albums, old albums that I listened to for the first time, and yeah, that's about it. So I am excited, I'm nervous. I feel like I always get scared to do videos like this because music is so subjective, it is so personal. Everyone has different albums that speak to them in different ways. I am just going to be speaking for myself. One thing that can be really challenging about filming first time reactions is never getting the chance to state how an album has impacted you as you've gone along, what your relationship to it ends up being after you listen a few more times. You know, there are so many times that I haven't really liked an album the first time I listened to it, and then I've gone back and it's been later that I've really fallen in love with it. And sometimes the opposite happens, where I really like an album the first time I listen to it, but over time it just doesn't end up being one of my favorite albums. And so I did want to share kind of updated thoughts on all of these albums, especially because, again, I don't really have the opportunity to speak about them as much as I would like after the fact. And so I really enjoy doing these end of the year recaps. I will also share whenever I'm talking about an album, if it's like in my top 10 albums that I listened to the most this year, I'm either gonna mention that or I'll like put it on screen or something. I also will be sharing my top 10 songs that I listened to the most this year and my top 10 artists. So I will explain the tiers because I did go on Tier Maker and I made a custom tier list with custom names because I like to get creative with it. So the very first tier that we have is Beth's Grammy Pool. This is if I hosted my own personal Grammys, what albums would I give awards to? The second tier is Stop, Drop, and Stream. I was kind of proud of that title. This category is all about replay value. What albums did I turn back to time and time again? Did I literally stop everything and stream at any given moment? The third tier is not necessarily a different quality value than the second tier, but it is timeless art. This is gonna go for any album that I feel is an art piece. It may not be an album that I listen to all the time. It may not have that replay value for me personally, but I think that it is an art piece. I think it's timeless and I think it works really well. The fourth tier is She Is the Moment.
She's a legend and she is the moment. Now come on now.
This is specifically for albums that I do not feel like are timeless, but that I did really like when I first discovered them. Tier 5 is Hit or Miss, pretty self-explanatory, but if there was an album that I feel like I loved certain songs and then I didn't like certain songs, I have a couple of specific albums that are gonna go into this tier. And then the sixth and bottom tier is yeah, there were albums this year that I don't feel like were as good as others, obviously. Because to have the really good albums, you have to have the albums that sucked. So, but without further ado, let's get into the ranking. We have Endless Summer Vacation by Miley Cyrus as the first one up. This album is kind of the reason that I made the She Is the Moment tier, because I really, really loved this album when it first came out. I still think it's a really good album. I even thought it was better than Plastic Hearts at the time. However, I would say that since it has been released, I have not found myself turning to it. I explained this in one of my videos, but I actually deleted the album from my library because I just had this sinking feeling that I was never going to go back to it again. And that does not mean there's anything wrong with it. That does not mean that I don't like the album. It just means that for me, it was not timeless beyond this year. Next, we have Control by SZA. Okay, I definitely wanted to talk about this album because this was an album that the first time I listened to it, I was very much just processing what I was hearing. It was a lot. It was very different from anything that I have ever listened to. This is such a unique album. I think it's a very good body of work. Majority of the songs are songs that I really, really adore. It's an album that grew on me and that I listened to a ton after I kind of acclimated myself to the sound of it and everything. I went back to it a ton. And so for that reason, I'm gonna put it in Stop, Drop, and Stream. Collection 2 by Ali X. I'm gonna put this in She Is the Moment. I listened to this album a lot when I first discovered it and really, really enjoyed it. I had like out of body moments with some of the songs, but I would say that I don't necessarily feel the pull to go back to it as much as I do Collection 1. Ally X, I'm gonna go ahead and say Collection 1 is like her magnum opus for me. I think that is such a good album. Gag Order by Kesha. Okay, this album is one of the reasons that I made the category for timeless art, because I feel like I don't even think of this as an album. I think of it as an art piece. I think of it as something that is timeless, that should be listened to. It's less about like listening and having a good time and enjoying it, although I do really, really, really love the sound of this album. It's more about the art behind it and the meaning behind it, and I think it is such a mature, intentional album, and I really love it. I haven't listened to it a whole ton, but every single time I listen to it, I love it. I think it's timeless. I think it's art. Timeless art. Heaven and Hell by Ava Max. Okay, listen, I loved this album. I still think it's a good album. Again, it's a good album. I just found myself deleting it from my library, kind of like Endless Summer Vacation, where I really, really listened to it a lot when I first discovered it, but I just don't think that it has that timelessness that I need in my own library. I remember I was watching Kyoshi Warrior one time, and she was like, "This is a great album. It's just not an album that lives with me." And I love the way she put that, because an album can be great, it can be amazing, it can be fresh, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna have it in my library forever. Silence Between Songs by Madison Beer. This one is hard for me to rank. I think it is really beautiful when I am in the mindset for it. But when I'm not in the mood for it, it's just completely, it's the last thing I want to listen to when I'm not in the mood for it. It is very slow at times, it is very ballad-like, and for that reason, you know, it's probably not going to be one of my favorite albums of the year. However, I think it's a nice album. I definitely prefer Life Support. I guess I'll put it in She Is the Moment, because I don't think it's going to be timeless for me. I don't think it's going to be an album that I go back to throughout the years. Chemistry by Kelly Clarkson. Okay, not me putting everything in She Is the Moment. It is such a good album. It is so mature. I love everything about it, to be honest. Guts by Olivia Rodrigo. Okay, I feel like we can all just collectively put that in the top tier. I adore this album with every fiber of my being. I love how fun it is, but how mature the songwriting and the vocals seem in comparison to Sour. I love how it's pop punk, but it's not too much, in my opinion. Like, it works in that perfect like pop punk rock vein, and I don't know, I just think she crushed it with that album. The ballads are beautiful. 5 Seconds Flat by Lizzie McAlpine. I am gonna put it in timeless art. The production on it is insane. I think that's the only word that I said in my reaction, was just production, because the production's insane. I did sort of check out her older album. I wasn't really a fan of the sound of it. It just didn't really vibe. Snow Angel by Renee Rapp. I literally think I made this category just for Snow Angel. Poison Poison is probably one of my favorite songs from the year. I mean, it's just so catchy. It's so fun. I love Swim. Talk or whatever. Talk Too Much and Snow Angel, the title track. The songs that I love, but the songs that fell flat for me just completely disappointed me in every way. Mainly like Gemini Moon. I'm just not a fan of Gemini Moon. I'm not a fan of Willow. Sonically, you know me, I'm a big Sonic production person, and very, very hit or miss for me. Beatopia by Bia Badoobie. I actually love this album now, which I did predict in my reaction. I stopped, dropped, and streamed this album so much. It's such a calming, cute, comforting, but also catchy and poppy kind of atmosphere that it creates. I think it's all about the atmosphere for that album. The Show by Niall Horan. This is one of the only albums that is going to be going into the bottom tier. I love Niall as a person, as an artist, sort of. I love his voice. I love his vibe. I love his personality. I just don't really think the music is there for me anymore. This album, I don't know, it just didn't feel memorable to me. I don't think it's bad. There were some songs on it that I really liked when I first reacted, but thinking of it in comparison to a lot of the other music that I've listened to this year, it doesn't really hold a candle. I think it's very forgettable. If I was listening to it, I would enjoy it. I would have a good time, but I'm not going to remember it out of all the albums that I've listened to and really loved this year. Okay, speaking of The Best Damn Thing by Avril Lavigne. I'm sorry to all my pop punk fanatics. I just don't think this was a great album. I will say that I have not listened to it more than once, so take that with a grain of salt, but I didn't think it was strong enough to have any desire to go back to it. Super Sunset by Ali X. This album grew on me a ton. I really did not think it was my vibe the first time I listened to it. Turns out I stopped, dropped, and streamed like the day after I reacted. I think it's my second favorite album after Collection 1. Britney Jean by Britney Spears. Okay, obviously, I think we can all collectively put it here. I don't think I need to explain, but I just think it's a very messy album. It is not like the worst thing I've ever laid ears on, but it is not an album that I would endorse or celebrate. SOS by SZA. So this is the album that I personally think should win Album of the Year at the Grammys. This is such a good album. I don't know what she put in this album, but I was listening to it non-stop, having full like out-of-body experiences listening to it. I don't think it's even a no-skip album for me. I think there are a couple songs that I would skip, but I love it so much. And it kind of took me by surprise. Sadly, my album reaction got blocked everywhere on YouTube, so you cannot watch it anymore, but just know that I had a lot of fun with that video. I'm really glad that I gave that album more of a chance. The Good Witch by Maisie Peters. Yeah, I've talked a lot about my love for this album on the channel. I am debating between the top 2 tiers because I do think it's possibly good enough for a Grammy. I'm probably gonna put it in Stop, Drop, and Stream, although it's almost in the first tier. I just think this is such a solid body of work. It's so cohesive. You just can listen to it without skipping a single song. The deluxe tracks are insane. I don't know what she put in that album. Again, I'm gonna say the same thing. Like, I don't even know how to express how good it is. Speak Now, Taylor's Version by Taylor Swift. I think this is a good album. I did listen to it a lot in comparison to like the other albums of this year. However, I would say it's not my favorite body of work from Taylor, and I didn't go back to it as much as I did Red or 1989 Taylor's versions. So for that reason, I'm gonna put it in Timeless Art because I do think it's timeless and I do think it's art and I do think it's a very good album. It's just not necessarily the replay value album for me that some of her other work is. Higher Than Heaven by Ellie Goulding. I listened to this album a couple times after reacting. I do think it's good. I don't know. It's not bad. I just don't think it's the most memorable body of work that I heard this year. For that reason, I'm probably gonna put it in the bottom tier. I'm really sorry. I think a big part of it is Ellie Goulding wanted to make an album that wasn't really deep and that didn't really have any meaning. It was just fun dance music. And while there's nothing wrong with that, that's not really the music that I'm going to like put in the top tier. Fruitcake, Sabrina Carpenter. I listened to this album so much that Buy Me Presents became my number 7 most listened to song the entire year, even though this album has only been out for 2 weeks. And so, yeah, I love it so much. I think it's such a fun pop Christmas album. I really do not love a lot of Christmas albums, but this is easily going to become one that I return to a lot, I think, in the next years. I mean, I think of like Ariana Grande's Christmas album, Sia's Christmas album, Sabrina's Christmas album. That's kind of my holy trinity of Christmas albums. Good Riddance by Gracie Abrams. Anyone who knows me knows how much I adore Gracie Abrams. I love her music. I love her as a person, as a performer. She has one of those voices that adds so much character to any song. Every single line she delivers has so much heart in it. I just adore her writing. I just adore everything about her. I'm gonna put this in Stop, Drop, and Stream. I will say Good Riddance was definitely a grower for me. I had to listen to it a few times to really fall in love with it. Holy Fuck by Demi Lovato. Yeah, I listened to this album so much. The songs on it that I like, because it is a hit or miss album for me. The songs that I love with every fiber of my being. I mean, 29, Teeth. I love how big and how grand it is, and her voice just suits the music so well. I think Demi Lovato has the perfect voice and the perfect presence for rock music. Some of you guys commented asking me, do I prefer pop Demi or rock Demi? I prefer rock Demi. I think Demi Lovato was made to make rock music. With that being said, there are definitely still songs on that album that I'm not a fan of. And so for that reason, I feel like I have to put it in hit or miss, despite the fact that the songs that I like on it should be in like the top tier. I'm not playing around about that album. New DNA by XG. Okay, this is another one that is gonna surprise some people because the first time I listened to it, I was like, okay, it's a cool vibe. It's just not really my vibe. But literally fell in love with that album after a couple of listens. I really didn't think I was gonna go back to it, and I really love the whole album now. I listen to it so much. Definitely going in stop, drop, and stream. It's so otherworldly, and like they really bring you into the album and then take you on this journey. And this is kind of why I like my channel, because I can find music that I might not have thought I would like, but that I ended up really liking. Desire I Want to Turn Into You by Caroline Polachek. I listened to this album a lot. I'm debating between Stop, Drop, and Stream and Timeless Art. I think I'm going to put it in Timeless Art because I don't think that I necessarily streamed it enough over the course of the year in order to put it higher. It is such a good album. It is such a cool album. I do like it a lot more than Pang. It's very unique. All of Caroline's music is very unique. Her music is something I don't listen to all the time. It's not the type of music that I'm gonna go listen to daily, but I really love it when I'm in that kind of mindset. Everything to Everyone by Renee Rapp. I listen to this album a lot. Yeah, it's one of those albums that I feel like you can just put on in the background. No skips, you just float right through it. It's very nice to listen to in the background. I'll probably put it in Timeless Art because I do think it's the kind of music that you can listen to at any time. Life Support by Madison Beer. I adore this album. I am debating between the top two tiers. I'm gonna put it in the Grammy pool one because I think this album could get a Grammy and should have gotten a Grammy. This album, again, I feel like is super memorable. It's super unique. The way it starts with that gorgeous intro and finishes out with channel surfing. I think the way that it's set up is very artistic. It's got like the gorgeousness, but it also has the insane production and like the bopability. And I think it has every element that would make an album good. Alchemical Volume 1 by Dove Cameron. Love it. I've listened to it quite a few times. I will say at first, when I first reacted to it, and then I was editing my reaction, I said to myself, you know what? I don't know that I'm ever going to listen to that album again. And then the next day I ended up listening again and realizing that I really do love that album. So for right now, I can't really say it's timeless because it's only been out for like a month. So I'm going to say Stop, Drop, and Stream. Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain is literally the reason that I made the Timeless Art tier. Is this an album that I have gone back to a whole ton? No, but I truly do think it is an art piece. It is timeless. You could listen to this album at any point in time and it would still be good. It would still be the same quality. It would still be the same album. It's not an album that's going to come and go with the seasons. It feels like a very set in stone body of work, if that makes sense. I mean, it's different. It's different from a lot of the music that I listen to. But again, that's kind of the whole point of my channel, is like discovering new things. Diamonds and Dance Floors by Ava Max. This is such a perfect album and it just takes me on an out of body experience every single time. So I am going to put it in Stop, Drop, and Stream. Again, I'm really trying to keep this top tier for like the best of the best. Speaking of the best of the best, 21st Century Blues by Ray. I adore this album. I adore Ray as a person, as a performer. I saw her back in October and she was so charming. She is so talented and so underrated, and this album does deserve a Grammy. I would give it a Grammy. Under My Skin by Avril Lavigne. I'm gonna put this in Timeless Art. Avril's not the type of artist that I'm gonna go listen to all the time, but I think this is definitely one of her best bodies of work. I know that's not a controversial opinion. The Land is Inhospitable and So Are We by Mitski. I feel like I have to put this in the top tier. I know some of you are screaming. Some of you are screaming right now and saying yes, yes, yes. I love this album. I don't know what she put in it, but it is one of the most calming, heavenly, divinely beautiful things I have ever heard in my life. No skips. Everything I said about a song that I didn't like in my first reaction, like if I mentioned that I didn't like a song, just please ignore that. I regret saying anything bad about it. If I had anything bad to say, I take it back. AR by Addison Rae. She's not timeless for me. She's not timeless. Like, let's be honest. Are you going to next year go and say, I need to listen to AR by Addison Rae? Maybe you are. But was she fun as hell in the moment? Yes. I do think this is a very fun, very good body of work, okay? She is the moment. That's the whole point. She is the moment.
Now come on now.
Tension by Kylie Minogue. I'm going to be so raw and honest right now. The only songs off this album that I have returned to and that I would say I like are Padam Padam and Tension. Those are the only songs. The other ones, I don't feel like they're memorable. I'm sorry. I just don't. I would be lying if I said anything else. I think the only two memorable songs for me were Tension and Padam Padam. But it was so fun to react to. It really was. It was really fun to react to. So how can I disrespect it? I'm not going to disrespect it. I'm going to put it in hit or miss. That's me being nice. Planet Her by Doja Cat. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. I love this album. Love it. And again, it's one of those albums that I'm surprised that I like it as much as I do, because it does have some of that rapping and, more of an R&B sound at times, which I don't always love. So again, that's kind of my music taste is always evolving and changing, especially the more that I do videos. And the more that I discover new albums, the more that it evolves. So I'm going to put it in Stop, Drop, and Stream. I don't care if it's a cash grab. I think it's a great album. Portals by Melanie Martinez. Definitely would give this album a Grammy. I mean, it's a whole concept album. It is one of the most creative, imaginative albums that I've probably ever heard in my life. And Melanie Martinez has become one of my favorite artists through that album. Melanie's always been an artist that I've loved, but for a while, they only had the 2 albums out. And when there's only 2 albums, I'm I don't know if I can say someone is my favorite artist of all time when I haven't even heard more than a couple of their albums. I know that doesn't make sense. But with this body of work, I feel like Melanie has proven herself, to me at least. Not that she had to prove herself to me, but I think for me it just solidified the maturing of the music and reminded me of how much I love Melanie's music. So yeah, I would definitely get on stage and give it a Grammy. Speaking of Grammys, Stick Season by Noah Kahan. Yeah, I mean, I love this album. I would probably give it a Grammy, because any album that can make a deluxe version of a very long album and there are no skips to be found and every single song is so good, that good, I have to put in the top tier. I have to give it the respect it's due. Noah knows how to tell a story. He knows how to use his voice to elicit emotion and to show such beauty. I don't know. It's like a whole world when you listen to that album, kind of like Portals. It's an album that I'm not soon going to forget. Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard by Lana Del Rey? The longest album title of all time. I am going to put this in Timeless Art because I did stream it a lot, but I just feel that in my deepest heart of hearts, I didn't stream it as much. I streamed it a lot. In my deepest heart of hearts, I feel like it belongs there. It does feel timeless to me. It does feel like it might be one of her best albums. There's a lot of really personal songs on that album about her family, about even death and other sadder topics. It does feel very mature in every way. Her vocals, the subject matter, and everything just feels light years above some of her other work. And I'm a huge Lana Del Rey fan. I love all of her albums, but in comparison to some of her previous work, I think it's more mature. It's also just one of the most calming bodies of work I have ever heard. Going back to Mitski's album, those are the 2 albums that I would award the most calming albums of the year. 1989 Taylor's version. Okay, we're ending on one of my favorite albums from this year. That is going straight into the top tier. I don't know what she put in this album. I don't know what she did to it, but I am obsessed with the re-recorded version of this album. And I will say that I was not a huge 1989 stan before this album came out. I liked it. I was a bit hit or miss for me with some of the songs, but with the re-recorded version, it is now one of my favorite Taylor albums, one of my favorite albums of all time. I always say this with the re-recordings, but songs that I never really cared for before have grown on me, and I've become obsessed with them. And then other songs that maybe originally were my favorites on the album have now become lesser favorites just because of the other ones overtaking them. It is a no skip album for me now, which I would not have said before the re-recording. I know I'm biased, but I literally think that's one of the best albums ever made. Okay, so we did it. This is my ranking, so you can see it and judge me. This is just my opinion, obviously. This is just to give you an idea of what I really went back to the most this year. year, what impacted me the most heavily. Yeah, and if you suggested for me to listen to one of the albums that are higher on the list, thank you. Thank you for suggesting that and for introducing me to something that, you know, I might not have listened to otherwise. We can quickly go through my Spotify Wrapped top 10 artists that I listened to the most this year and top 10 songs that I listened to the most this year. So for artists, we have number 10, Sabrina Carpenter. I'm a little bit surprised to see this here because I didn't really listen to Emails I Can't Send a bunch this year. So the only thing I can think of that might be the cause is her Christmas EP, which honestly, I did listen to that so much that she could be in the top 10 just from that. Number 9, Ali X. I think this is mainly because I did the discography journey and that, you know, I spent a lot of time listening to those. Number 8, Ava Max. Again, I did her discography. Number 7, Madison Beer. Again, did the discography. Number 6, Mitski. That is only because of the new album. Number 5, Lana Del Rey. Number 4, SZA. Number 3, Melanie Martinez. Number 2, Olivia Rodrigo. And number 1, Taylor Swift. I feel like it's not a surprising list until you get into like, I was a little bit surprised to see Ali X. I was a little bit surprised to see Sabrina Carpenter, but not surprised at all by the first 5 or so. I mean, those are some of my favorite artists of all time. And then we have my top 10 songs that I listened to the most this year. At number 10, we have Ceilings by Lizzie McAlpine. Yeah, I'm not surprised to see this here. I feel like it became an instant classic for me and I kept hearing it on TikTok and that made me want to listen to it more. So it's a very addicting song. Number 9, Moon Cycle by Melanie Martinez. No one is surprised. You saw me fighting for my life against potential haters in that video because people had hated on that song and I will not have it. It's a great song. Is it my favorite on the album anymore? No, it's not. Number 8, Flowers by Miley Cyrus. Yeah, I mean, I listened to it a lot when it came out. Again, I feel like I don't listen to it anymore. It's not a song that I'm probably gonna ever listen to again. It just got overplayed. Number 7, Buy Me Presents by Sabrina Carpenter. Number 6, Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard by Lana Del Rey. Again, one of the most calming songs I heard this year. Number 5, Death by Melanie Martinez. One of the most fresh, interesting, and unique songs I heard this year. Number 4, Bug Like an Angel by Mitski. Again, one of the most calming songs I heard this year. Number 3, Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo. Number 2, What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish. I listened to that song over and over again while having an existential crisis because she released that song at the exact moment that I happened to be having one. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. Like you saw it in the movie, right? And just everyone cried. And number 1, Bad Idea Right by Olivia Rodrigo. Again, no surprise there because I did look it up a bit ago and it is my most listened to song in the last few years. Again, I don't know what she put in that song, but it's so addicting. So there you have it. That is kind of my listening habits from the last year. Some of you were asking for my Spotify Wrapped. I will link the playlist below of my top 100 most listened to songs from the year, so you can check that out if you're interested. Other than that, my Spotify Wrapped was not that interesting. As far as like my listening personality, I think I got Time Traveler, which was probably just because I went back and listened to Kyoto by Phoebe Bridgers a ton. Basically just means that I go back and listen to old songs a lot, which is something that I tend to do. Like I go back to an old song and then I just listen to it on repeat. So that was kind of fun, but there wasn't anything really super interesting in there, to be completely honest. Taylor Swift was my top artist, but I was only in the top 2% of her listeners, which was down from previous years. I've been in the top 1%. For me, it just wasn't as interesting this year with like the different information they provided me, but I always like seeing that. Yeah, I hope this was enjoyable. I hope this was fun. You know, keep in mind, it's just my opinion. It's just my relationships to these albums, and you might have a totally different relationship to a lot of them, and that is totally fine. Thank you for being here, for hanging out with me, for experiencing this past year of music with me. Thank you for 19,000 subscribers. Thank you for existing and wanting to watch my videos. I really appreciate it. Feel free to like and subscribe or don't, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.